morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I haven't been live in a little bit. So today, right now, I really want to go live to talk about defunding the police and what we mean when we talk about defund the police, or disband the police, or don't what any variation of that. First of all, let's be clear about what we mean when we say defund the police. We're not saying um, totally get rid of them. What we're saying is we want to redirect the funds, the money that goes into police budgets, redirect those funds into community-related programs that make policing unnecessary. So we would shift from a police state or a need for police to something more along the lines of security. So we want to get away from policing and get into a security framework where there isn't a need for all of this aggression, and they don't need military grade anything. So because you're not policing anything, you are more along the lines of securing. The whole premise of protect and serve, you're not protecting and serving everybody. So if we get away from a police concept framework and shift towards something along the lines of securing neighborhoods, securing communities, that makes more sense. And so what does that mean? Okay, so if all of the things that the police are policing, that is considered an issue. Homelessness, because we have a homeless population problem. There's too many of them, and we got to round them up and do all of this stuff. Well, if you put money into programs for homelessness, then there wouldn't be a need to police homeless people. So we have a problem with at-risk youth, and they're just hanging out and da-da-da-da-da. If you put money into community-related programs for at-risk youth in underserved communities, because they're literally underserved, if you redirect the funds into programs so that these underserved communities don't stay underserved and they get what they need, then you won't have a need to police at-risk youth that are just hanging out on the street getting into trouble because they bored. Because now there are programs that they can get into that can help redirect their lives and put them on a path of prosperity. So if we, let me see. We can run it down. You can't say it's a drug problem because the DEA been busting up all kinds of drug deals since Rona hit. Every time you turn around, they busting up drugs. You can legalize marijuana now. So what you policing? Local police don't do that. If they happen upon it, but guess who's gonna eventually come on up in there and take over? The DEA. So what need is there for that? Because you're not policing that. You're not policing that. So there, the excuse to need police, is just increasingly going away. Most people don't even know the history of police. So let me run it down for you. Okay. The police force started back pre-Civil War, back when slavery existed in this nation. Okay. It just changed looks. But the whole concept of policing came about during slavery. The whole concept was to what? Capture slaves who were running away for freedom. And then over time, it just evolved into something else. Please go and study that stuff. Go study Jim Crow. So a lot of the things that they currently police is not new. Some of it is created so that there is a need for them. But if we eliminate the need that they swear that we need police for, then we don't need to put funding into an organization, into a system, because policing is a system. It's a concept. It is not about protecting and serving, and at least not all. It's protecting and serving some folks, a specific group of people. But the initial concept of policing was to capture Black people running away to freedom. Black enslaved people, because let me be clear, people talking about my ancestors were slaves. My ancestors were not slaves. They were prosperous African people who were hijacked and enslaved and brought to this nation, among others. We just landed here in 1619, but there was others. Slavery existed long before 1619, okay, before it hit here. So understand that we African people that were hijacked, pillaged, and raped from the continent of Africa. Okay? Understand, they were not slaves when they were in Africa. They became slaves. They were enslaved, meaning forced into slavery when they were hijacked and pillaged and taken from their homeland. Okay? Understand that. So, get here. Now you understand policing, the history of policing. It was not about when you talk about when you hear protect and serve and you see protect and serve, the concept of policing began in slavery. The whole concept was to capture Black people. Why do you think prisons and police and sentencing for Black people are so much stronger for the same criminal offense as white offenders? Because the concept of policing to protect and serve does not apply to Black people. It is systemic. It is historical. It is rooted in racism. So when we talk about defunding the police, we are literally talking about dismantling a racist system, a program. It is programming. It is mentally programmed. Why do you think they use Black people, brown people as target practice when they're on the shooting range? They're not using the silhouettes. They're using full-on Black people's faces as target practice. It is programming. It is in the mind that we are the enemy. Black skin is the enemy, and they don't care if it's a woman or a man. In slavery times, one of the biggest things was to, first of all, break you down mentally. So that's why, especially Black men, when they were on that auction block, most of the time, a good bit of the times, a good bit of the pictures you're going to see, they were naked. Because it is to when you got to mentally break that strong man down and bring him to debase him, and to do it in front of the Black woman. So now her protector has been broken down. So who does she have to protect? It's about breaking that whole family structure up and weakening that system. And so, you tell me what having a man on an auction block to talk about his strength and how strong he is and how much work he can do, what does that have to do with bending him over and playing in his butthole? But they would literally do that. It was about debasing him, break you down up here to bring you to your lowest point as a man, so that all you can do is just work to get over, just to escape that mental torture. Then we get into colorism. What is colorism? When you sit here and hate on other Black people because they're on the lighter end of the spectrum or the darker end of the spectrum. And that started in slavery as well. There were slave masters that would whisper, and they feel like they're better than you, and they feel like they're better than you, or that you feel some way about them, and It was mental. And so guess what? We still live under that system of colorism. And, you light skinned, so you mixed and you blended and you not really Black. We don't have room for that. There's no room for that. But if we can tear you down internally as a culture, as a people, then we can control you. It's about keeping you ignorant of a lot of different things. But more importantly, if we can keep you ignorant of how great you are and how prosperous you used to be at one point, and why, then we can control you. If Africa is such a poor nation, why are they still over there raping that land for everything it's got? Gold and silver and bronze and ore and all of that good stuff over there. They're still taking it. Because now we have a narrative in mainstream media, because it's not about journalism and news. It's about programming. It's about, propaganda. So you don't get to see in social media, in the era of social media, yeah, because everybody can really tell the truth and control the narrative and the conversation. And now we can shift to, this is the prosperous Africa that they don't want you to see. But it's about programming. So now we can stop the programming and shift the narrative. We can work on it. But if we can keep you ignorant, we can control you, we can tell you and debase you and bring you to your lowest point, then we can control you. And that's what policing does. That's all policing is. We gonna police you on every possible hand, physically, mentally, spiritually, in every way possible. How spiritually? We're gonna take the gospel of Jesus Christ and we're gonna pervert it, and we're gonna beat you over the head with it, and we're gonna find everything in here to justify what we're doing, and that ain't what the word of God means, but we're gonna use it anyway. We're gonna get you so mad up into the gospel that you're gonna hate Jesus himself and really throw out the whole concept of the gospels of Jesus Christ, because we done perverted it and pick and choose what we wanted. And that ain't what it meant in the Bible in the first place, but that's what we wanted it to believe. So that's what we use to justify. And so now you hate everything that's meant to make you great, not everything about you. Everything about the rainbow of blackness that's amazing and beautiful. The rainbow of black people, from albinos to the darkest end of the spectrum, is beautiful. But in colorism, because that's what's in your head, it's not. If it's not, then why then do they take the genius that is the innovation and creativity of Black people and use it and turn around and sell it to you at the highest possible dollar, and you'll buy it? But you won't take that same beautiful concept and buy it from an African designer, because the concept now is you are inferior. When we talk about policing and dismantling the whole police structure in the physical context, yeah, you don't need this, so we can shift to a narrative of securing our communities. Because if you look at Greenwood, Oklahoma, and the original cowboys, who were Black, by the way, I'm telling you, Mario Van Peebles been trying to tell you, been schooling you on some history. Go back and watch some of his old movies, because he's been telling you the truth. We policed our own communities, our own neighborhoods. When we say police, we secured our own areas. It works. The whole concept of securing neighborhoods and communities work if you want it to work. The problem is there's too much money in oppression. There's too much money in oppression. So if we can keep communities underserved, then we can keep them oppressed, and we can keep abusing our power and our authority, and we can keep mentally breaking you down so you feel like you have no hope, so you don't fight back, and we can continue to do the things we do. Why in the world does a whole state or city have to pass a law to tell police it's not okay for you to rape people in custody? Why is that even a law? Why is there a need for a law to say it is illegal for you to rape somebody in your custody that you have arrested? Why does that even need to be a law? But if there was no policing, if we went from policing to securing, that's not even a thing anymore. So what we're saying is, we talk about defunding the police. We're talking about shifting away from a destructive network, a system, a process, to something that is more community oriented, community related, something that is more community focused, that really is about protecting and serving the community. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it for everybody. And so that means that that whoever's securing that neighborhood, it needs to be reflective of those people. So we're talking about redirecting police funds, all those budgets, into community related programs. So let's take the new NYPD, who has a $6 billion budget. $6 billion. Okay. This is probably one of the more aggressive police forces in this nation. Why do you need $6 billion to keep beating up on people? Because they are not protecting and serving. They are not about that. Seriously, they're not. We've seen that. Like we literally have seen this. And you can't say it's the riots because you've seen it way before that. Look at cops. It took all of this time to get cops off the network because you know what? Arizona PD was pretty much the ones on there most of the time. I mean, come on. And I applaud the people of Los Angeles for fighting back, saying, no, we're not okay with this budget that y'all are trying to approve because the police don't need this much money. We need to redirect the money into community-related funds, and that's what we're talking about. Take that money, all of that money, because about 75% of their budget, I believe, 75 to 80% maybe of their budget was for police. Why? When all they're doing is beating the hell out of the community. You're paying these people to do the opposite of what they're saying they're doing. So when we talk about defunding the police, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about shifting from a narrative or from a system, a concept of policing, which is very aggressive and unnecessary, to security. You just need to secure your community. And what does that mean? If you have programs in place for all the things you swear you need to police, then you don't need it. You won't need the police. You just need to secure your communities because now you got programs in place that are being managed and tracked for progress. Because it's not enough to just have the programs, people. You have to be able to track the progress of the program, which means you need to have controls in place and assessments and all of that kind of stuff. But you have programs in place that help the community be better. And if we do that, we won't have a whole bunch of underserved communities in place, and we won't have databases full of grants available with money available for underserved communities and and communities of color. Because if you redirect tax-paying dollars from the police into community programs, then you won't need that. And I'm not saying get rid of those databases. I'm not saying get rid of those grants because they're needed. But if we redirect a lot of this taxpayer dollars out of these police budgets and redirect them into these community programs, it can work. You don't have money for after school programs. You don't have enough money to pay the balances of children's accounts on school so they can eat. You gonna arrest parents because they can't afford the meal plan at school when police budgets can afford to feed these babies at school. So the issues that we swear we got the money for it. We just don't want to spend the money on that. And so when we talk about defunding the police, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about redirecting that money into the programs we swear we don't have, because it don't make no sense that the NYPD got a $6 billion budget, but school teachers got to buy their own supplies. And here in Florida, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but here in Florida, the parents got to buy supplies, and they don't just buy supplies for their children. They buy supplies for the whole class. So that ream of paper ain't just going to your child. That ream of paper that parent has to buy is for the whole class. Those, crayons and colored pencils and notebooks and notepads and all that stuff is for the whole class. It's not just for your child. And school teachers got to spend part of their paycheck to buy, you're welcome, Jeffrey, love you, to buy school supplies. Why? When I grew up, that was unheard of. Ain't nobody buying no school supplies. The only thing you got to do is your book bag, your pencil, your notebooks, whatever you need, and that was it. They give you your books, and we got old, this is back when we had paper bags in grocery stores. You take that paper bag and you wrap your books up, and you can decorate your book all you want. That's it. Now it ain't like that. Oh no, all of that bill is now on the parents. Why? Why are school teachers and parents who already don't make a whole lot of money sitting here spending their own money for school supplies when the police department got ridiculous budgets and they not doing right by the community? Take that money out of the police budget and redirect it into schools. period. That's one thing we can do. We can pay these kids lunch and school bill again. After school programs, before school programs. Duh. I mean, there are lots and lots of programs that money can be used. And that's what we talk about when we say defund the police. We're talking about redirecting the money into school, into community programs. And if we need to put it into education, pay these school teachers. Listen, during the shutdown of Rona, a lot of y'all parents better appreciate these teachers. And a lot of y'all need to know these teachers y'all already knew school teachers didn't get paid enough money. They still don't get paid enough money. Take that money out of the police budget and redirect that and pay these school teachers. Because you realize your child ain't all of that. Your child is a real problem. And you pay these school teachers. Put money back into these schools. Athletic programs. Y'all want these kids to be out here playing, but then they got to go out here and they got to now, if you in an athletic program outside of football, or maybe even basketball, but if your child play volleyball, tennis, soccer, anything like that, they are responsible for getting themselves to and from on a game. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But we want children to be active. We want them to participate in intramural sports, but we don't want to provide them with what they need. That don't make a hill of doggone sense. Provide that transportation. They don't even have, like nowadays, there's not even money to take them on field trips. So going to the zoo and taking field trips to DC to understand how the government works, or even to Tallahassee here in Florida, we used to do that stuff all the time. So you know how government works. We don't even have basic civics. Civics is an optional class. That's ridiculous. So we have programs that are in place to help, but they don't have enough funding. So why not, again, redirect those funds that the police get, because they don't need all of that money. I don't care what you say. They don't need all of that money. A lot of them work extra hours to make more money anyway as security officers somewhere else, as we saw with the man that killed George Floyd. And it gets deeper, and it keeps getting deeper because he had issues. So it was personal. We already knew it. Horace called it. Oh, it keeps getting more intense. I need those charges to be increased, by the way. But if we defund the police, that means, guess what? Now we need to go ahead and get rid of police unions. That's right. Because all y'all doing is in place to protect police so they can continue to be criminals and get away with it and not be held accountable. As is evidenced by the Buffalo Police Department, the man standing up there talking about y'all are trying to make us out to be the bad guys, when, sir, we have seen the videos all over and the lies of the conspiracy theories. And, sir, we saw these two police officers literally push this 70-plus-year-old man down, bust his head open, and nobody gave him aid. Don't talk about we're trying to make you out to be the bad guys when everybody all over the world saw the same thing. We've been seeing the same thing. We're seeing videos of police officers actually taking knives and slashing people's tires. You are the bad guy. And the police have been the bad guys for a long time. We can echo all the names for the longest time of police brutality, overstepping your boundaries. We can defund that, get rid of that. Then there won't be a need for internal affairs. Why? Because why in the world would we let an organization investigate its own as if it's going to be impartial? It's not. So if organizations got to have external companies come in and do their audit, their financial auditing, why then do we not apply the same thing to the police? It should absolutely be that way. So defund the police. We won't have a need for police unions. We won't have a need for internal affairs. Everything would be okay. We need an investigation. Let's get an independent organization that is not bought and paid for by any lobbyist organization, because y'all a problem too. Y'all part of the whole problem. The NRA is a lobby organization. You're an advocate for what? Gun rights and how you want to see it. So y'all spend y'all money on what y'all want. So no, we need an independent organization that's not tied to anybody that's making money in Congress or anywhere else that's making decisions. I said what I said, and that's why we need what we need, because it's a whole problem. We need somebody that's going to come in and be impartial. And that's what we need. Okay, so if we defund the police, we redirect those funds into community organizations and activism that helps help whole communities grow and develop and obtain equity. We won't have a need for police. And all we can do, we can now shift from policing to securing communities, because there won't be underserved communities, because there will be financing and money poured into those community programs, and we won't have a whole bunch of homeless people, because there'll be programs for that. We won't have a whole bunch of young people that's wild and in the streets because they ain't got nothing else better to do. We got, all of these crazy narratives and stuff and excuses for why we need the police, because if you take that money and put it into programs, you won't have a need for police. We just need to secure our neighborhoods. It's been done. It's been done before. We can do it. We just have to want to do it, but there's no money in that. And so we're talking about beyond dismantling police. We're talking about dismantling greed. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's greed and it's power, and we don't want to let it go. And I'm going to say right now, we need to not let up on this. As a community, we tend to settle for crumbs. And my encouragement to the Black community, those of us, white allies, everybody who's really supporting Black Lives Matter, and I'm not talking about these organizations just out here, expressing solidarity when you ain't been about solidarity. We know who you are, and we calling you out these days. Don't let up. I say that because we settle for crumbs and we get excited because we got a few crumbs. We can't let up until the whole knee is off our neck, and it needs to permanently stay off our neck. And so what am I saying? We can't never let up. We have to keep echoing the message of I can't breathe. Even if we get an opportunity to breathe, we still got to keep echoing it. Why? Because any opportunity for oppression that's taken, we need to take action against it. So, we got excited when Rodney King got his settlement. We shouldn't let up. If anything, that was an opportunity to keep applying pressure, because those were crumbs to get us to shut up and go away. Got a little bit of money here. Let them go away. No. Apply pressure. We need to keep applying pressure. Not only do we need to keep applying pressure, we need to specifically say what it is we want. We can't say we want a candidate to bring forth a Black agenda. We're expecting somebody else to come up with it. No, you have to say what you want. Right now, we're saying we want to defund the police. That's one part of the agenda, and switch to a securing narrative. That's one part of the agenda, but what's the rest? It's like, expecting somebody else, a candidate, to come up with a Black agenda. It's like what Malcolm X said, and I'm paraphrasing here. But basically, you can't look to your oppressor to come up with a program for you. All they're going to do is just come up with something that's going to keep you oppressed. It's going to look like it's for you, but it's not. So it's our responsibility as a community, Black people, to come up with what we want. And we got to go beyond reparations. I am not anti-reparations, but to me, reparations is short term, and that's only one part of the problem. You can't get reparations and think that that's it. No. You need a list of things, because we need long-term solutions. And I'm not saying that we get reparations, that's not going to be a longer conversation, because they're going to hold out as long as they can. But if they give us reparations, we have to have something along with those, because reparations is not enough, because they still burnt down Greenwood, Oklahoma. You have to understand that the whole system is designed to keep Black people from being prosperous and united, because that is the fear. And we have to have our own agenda and our own narrative that says, this is what we want, and we're not going to stop until we get all of it. Not a crumb, not 1/3 of it, not 1/2, not 3/5, not 3/4, all 100% of the whole pie. And we need to start having conversations. So this next series of town halls I'm going to have, I'm already lining up some people. I've got some mental health people. I'm looking for some healthcare professionals. If you are in healthcare administration, I want to talk to you. I got somebody in mental health. I'm looking for an attorney. I need to talk to you. I've already talked to somebody who is in education, who's a principal, but I would like to talk to some more people, community partners, advocates. If that is is you. If you're a politician, if you are a mayor, if you are a pastor, you know, I want to talk to you because I want you on this next town hall series panel. This is going to be a series of Black Lives Matter panel conversations, so we can start talking about what we want and how are we going to get there. We need to look at short-term and long-term and create our own blueprint. And part of the blueprint is defund the police. We need to outline what that looks like and how we can start communicating with our local politicians so they can take it to the state and then eventually federal. We always want to go to the top, and there's nothing wrong with shooting the moon. Shout out to Horace Towns. There's nothing wrong with shooting the moon, but you got to start at your local level. I'm going to encourage everybody to vote in your local primaries. There's already some nonsense with a lot of these primaries and voting. We knew some stuff was going to go wrong in Georgia, and my God, them people was out there well past midnight trying to vote, but shout out to the people who were resolute that they were going to vote anyway. And now you see why there's an issue with mail by ballot, because a lot of those people, they swear, the state swear that they sent those ballots, and half the people didn't even get their ballots. So they got to figure out, where did those mail-in ballots go? And so there's so much going on. Just know we're not going to let up. If I were y'all, just keep fighting. Don't let up. If your vote didn't mean anything, they wouldn't be out here trying to suppress it, because they already know. When it comes to defunding the police, listen, you know it works. Why? Because they did it in LA. Keep fighting. It's possible. We just need to have conversation around what all of this looks like. And so stay tuned for, me. I'm trying to talk to some people, and we're going to coordinate a schedule, and I'm going to come up with a series of town halls. We're going to be talking about Black Lives Matter and what the agenda is. We're creating the blueprint, and I have no problem leading the charge. I'm already working with some people offline, talking about how this looks, what this looks like, looking at long term into the future, because you cannot look for just short-term solutions. This is a long-term problem. It's a long-term solution. We didn't get here overnight. This is an issue that's been going on since the 1600s, 1400s, way back. It ain't going away overnight. And I'm telling you right now, that's what we need to echo the message of I can't breathe, because it's not going to go quietly into that good night the way some white people want it to do, because it's uncomfortable. But we need to face this uncomfortable stuff, because it's been uncomfortable for Black people for a very long time. And we tired of being uncomfortable. We tired of being tired. And this is where we are. And my message to the Black community, don't let up. If we get a little bit, we need to apply pressure. Every time a demand is met, we need to apply pressure. That ain't the time to let up. That's the time to go hard in the paint. So hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye.